of our Divine Mother. Our Divine Mother says to receive the divine grace, not only one must have a great aspiration, but also a sincere humility and an absolute trust. With always our love and blessings, says our Divine Mother. Sri Aurobindo's Savitri, Book 6, The Book of Fate, Canto 2, The Way of Fate and the Problem of Pain, page 446. The seed of Godhead sleeps in mortal hearts. The flower of Godhead grows on the world's tree. All shall discover God in self and things. But when God's messenger comes to help the world and lead the soul of earth to higher things, he too must carry the yoke he came to unloose. He too must bear the pang that he would heal. Exempt and unafflicted by earth's fate, how shall he cure the ills he never felt? He covers the world's agony with his calm. But though to the outward eye no sign appears, and peace is given to our torn human hearts, the struggle is there and paid the unseen price. The fire, the strife, the wrestle are within. He carries the suffering world in his own breast. Its sins weigh on his thoughts. Its grief is his. Earth's ancient load lies heavy on his soul. Night and its powers beleaguer his steady steps. The Titan adversary's clutch he bears. His march is a battle and a pilgrimage. Life's evil smites. He is stricken with the world's pain. A million wounds gape in his secret heart. He journeys sleepless through an unending night. Antagonist forces crowd across his path. A siege, a combat is his inner life. Even worse may be the cost, direr the pain. His large identity and all-harboring love shall bring the cosmic anguish into his depths. The sorrow of all living things shall come and knock at his doors and live within his house. A dreadful cord of sympathy can tie all suffering into his single grief and make all agony in all the worlds his own. He meets an ancient adversary force. He is lashed with the whips that tear the world's worn heart. The weeping of the centuries visits his eyes. He wears the blood-glued fiery censure shirt. The poison of the world has stained his throat. Words of our Divine Mother and our Lord Sri Aurobindo, taken from the compilations of the works of our Lord and our Divine Mother. Book Gifts of the Grace, topic Psychic Being, subject Each psychic being has a mission. Question, sweet mother, the fact of being born with a psychic being and upon earth, which is a spiritual symbol, proves that we have, each one of us, a great responsibility, doesn't it? for this, our Divine Mother says, surely one has a big responsibility. It is to fulfill a special mission that one is born upon earth. Only naturally the psychic being must have reached a certain degree of development. Otherwise, it could be said that it is the whole earth which has the responsibility. The more conscious and individualized one becomes, the more should one have the sense of responsibility. But this is what happens at a given moment. One begins to think that one is here not without a reason, without purpose. One realizes suddenly that one is here because there is something to be done, and the something is not quite anything egoistic. This seems to me the most logical way of entering upon the path. All of a sudden, says our Divine Mother, all of a sudden to realize, since I am here, it means that I have a mission to fulfill. Since I have been endowed with a consciousness, it is that I have something to do with that consciousness. What is it? Our Divine Mother continues to say, generally it seems to me that this is the first question one should put to oneself. Why am I here? Our Divine Mother says, each man has then a mission to fulfill, a role to play in the universe, a part he has been given to learn and take up in the cosmic purpose, a part which he alone is capable of executing and none other. This he has to learn and acquire through life experiences. That is to say, not in one life, but in life after life. Our Divine Mother says, in fact, that is the meaning of the chain of lives that the individual has to pass through, namely to acquire experiences and to gather from them the thread, the skein of qualities and attributes, powers and capabilities for the pattern of life he has to view. Now, the inmost being, the true personality, the central consciousness of the evolving individual is his psychic being. It is, as it were, a very tiny spark of light living in normal people far behind the life experiences. In grown-up souls, the psychic consciousness has an increased light, increased in its intensity, volume, and richness. Thus, there are old souls and new souls. Old and ancient are those that have reached or about to reach the fullness of perfection. They have passed through a long history of innumerable lives and developed the most complex and yet the most integrated personality. New souls, says our Divine Mother, are those that have just emerged or are now emerging out of the mere physio-vital existence. These are simple organisms made of fewer constituents, related mostly to the bodily life with just a modicum of the mental one. Our Divine Mother says it is the soul, however, that grows with experiences, and it is the soul that builds and enriches the personality. Whatever portion of the outer life, whatever element in the mind or vital or body succeeds in coming into contact with the psychic consciousness, that is to say, is able to come under its influence, is taken up and lodged there. It remains in the psychic being as its living memory and permanent possession. It is such elements, says our Divine Mother, that forms the basis, the groundwork upon which the structure of the integral and true personality is raised. The first thing to do then is to find out what is that you're meant to realize. What is the role you have to play, your particular mission, and the capacity or quality you have to express. You have to discover that, and also the thing or the things that oppose and do not allow it to flower or come to full manifestation. In other words, you have to know yourself, recognize your soul or the psychic being. A Divine Mother says, theories differ according to schools, sects, and each one puts forth excellent reasons to support what it asserts. There is certainly truth in whatever one affirms, and in any case is not only possible but has existed in the history of the earth. The only thing I can speak of is my own experience. The soul is divine, an eternal portion of the Supreme Divine, and therefore cannot be limited or bound by any law whatever other than its own. These souls are emanated by the Lord to do His work in the world, and each one comes upon earth with a special purpose, for a special action and a special destiny, carrying in itself its own law, which is imperative for itself alone and cannot be a general law. Next subtopic: role and work of the psychic being. Our Divine Mother says, the soul is that which comes out of the Divine without ever leaving Him and goes back to Him without ever ceasing from manifestation. The soul is the Divine made individual without ceasing to be divine. In the soul, the individual and the Divine are eternally one. Thus, to find one's soul is to be united with the Divine. It can therefore be said that the role of the soul is to make of man a true being. A Divine Mother says, from the very moment of birth in a physical body, there is in the being, in its depth, this psychic presence which pushes the whole body, the whole being towards this fulfillment. But who knows it and recognizes it, this psychic being? That too comes only in special circumstances, and unfortunately most of the time that these have to be painful circumstances, otherwise one goes on living unthinkingly. And in the depths of one's being is this psychic being which seeks to awaken the consciousness and re-establish the union. One knows nothing about it. Our Divine Mother says, the present being, whatever it may be, whoever may be within it, always has a psychic being. Usually it depends on the degree of evolution of the psychic being, but still every psychic being which is in a body has states of being formed in the present formation. Its work is always to transform these. It is as though this were part of the universe given to him for his work of transformation. And even if he has a vaster mission than that of his own person, unless he does this work in his person, he cannot do the other. You cannot change the outer world unless you begin by changing yourself. This is the first condition. And for everyone, great and small, old and young, I mean those who have lived very long, and young, those who haven't lived very long, it is the same work. This is why life upon earth for a psychic being is the opportunity for progress. Psychic center is a luminous and calm. It is made to govern the human being. The human being is made up of different parts. Unification of the beings, sometimes clearly separated, they can unite only around the psychic influence and action. How to unite? How can one unite or one unify with one's being? Our Divine Mother says, the first step is to find deep within oneself, behind the desires and impulses, a luminous consciousness which is always present and manifests the physical being. Ordinarily, one becomes aware of the presence and consciousness only when one has to face some danger or an unexpected event or a great sorrow. One has then to come into conscious contact with that and learn to do so at will. The rest will follow. The work of unifying the being consists of becoming aware of one's psychic being, putting before the psychic being as one becomes aware of them all one's movements, impulses, thoughts, and acts of will, so that the psychic being may accept or reject each of these movements, impulses, thoughts, or acts of will. Those that are accepted will be kept and carried out. Those that are rejected will be drawn out of the consciousness so that they may never come back again. It is a long and meticulous work that may take years to be done properly, says our Divine Mother. Prayers and Meditations, May 10th, 1914. It is thy sweet joy, O Lord, that fills my heart. It is thy silent peace that reigns over my mind. All is repose, force, concentration, light, and serenity. And all this is without any limit, without any division. It is only the earth, or rather the whole universe, that lives in me. I do not know, but it is thou, O Lord, who dwellest in this consciousness and givest it life. It is thou who seekest, knowest, actest. It is thou alone whom I see everywhere, or rather, there is no longer any I. All is one, and this oneness is thou. Glory to thee, O Lord, Master of the world, thou shinest resplendent in all things.
The greatest victories are the least noisy. The manifestation of a new world is not proclaimed by beat of drum.